Hi, everybody. This is Kathy L. Murphy, and I'm reporting live from my daughter's house in Tyler, Texas. Yes, I'm going back to school, but tonight I have Jayne Jaudon Ferrer here with her book, Haley and the Hot Flashes, which is the perfect August story. And you were going to say something right as I hit the button. What were you going to say, Jane?
I was going to say, well, everybody else was getting COVID 2 years ago. I got labyrinthitis, so I don't hear in my right ear. So y'all just talk loud.
Okay, well, I talk loud anyway because I think I'm losing my hearing. My daughter said, I think mom, you're yelling. And I go, well, that's what you do when you can't hear. But it's important. You can always turn the volume down, people, but
Oh,
it's
yeah, yeah.
important that our author hears me. But before we even begin talking about this remarkable, great book before school starts, is Jane and I actually met way a long time ago. What year
Long
was it,
time.
Jane? I completely forgotten this because it just seems like eons ago, but it wasn't that long ago, was it? When was it?
Well, you saw that
Was
picture I posted. You had short hair, and I had frizzy hair.
Well, I didn't even want to show my hair after being out in this weather. It's been so hot in Texas. But we met at you come to my Books Alive book
Alive.
convention, which was this was a convention that I started featuring Christian authors and as a fundraiser for my church, which was the Methodist Church, and I did it for several years, and then the minister left and things changed and I moved and everything, but no more. But it was a wonderful event and it was very intimate. And I, I had the best time when we used to do that. And some of my authors that came to those are still coming back. I've had, were you there when Sam Bracken came with My Orange
Marsha
Duffel
Groover is
Bag?
the one that I remember.
Who?
That's
Who?
Marsha Groover, and she's
Marcia
published several books
Groover,
since
and
then.
Marcia, that was her first author event ever, and she was so nervous that she said, "I don't think I can talk in front of people. How am I going to do it?" And I go, "Give me your hand." Do you remember this? I said, "Give me your hand." I flunked for each speech in high school. I go, "I'll show you how to do this." And so I said, "Come out here with me," and we're holding hands. And I said, "Okay, this is her first time in front of a live audience, and here we're in church, we all love each other." I go, "So I'm going to help Marcia with her very first address to a group of people." And I just started talking to her and asking her questions about things, and then she started talking using her hands. She let my hand go, and then people were asking her questions, and all of a sudden I saw her taking off, and I just started slipping over to the side, and then I sat down, and she goes, "How'd you do that?" And I go,
Uh,
"Face your fears, people, because I've done it with a lot of authors that are very nervous about speaking in front of other people. But if you're really passionate about what you're talking about, um, hold someone's hand till you get your nerve." And if I taught speech, that's what I do. Anybody that had speech problems, I go, "Okay, we'll do it together. Hold my hand, and I'll just start asking you questions about." And then when you let them go, they just take off. And this has happened numerous times. But we had Ronnie Hall, who did Same Kind of Different as Me, which was made into the film. With Renee Zellweger. It was a wonderful, wonderful film. But tonight we're here to talk about you, Jane. And you were telling me you live in Greenville, North Carolina. How long have you been there?
Greenville, South Carolina. We've
I
been
mean,
here.
South Carolina. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we've been here 29 years. I'm a native Floridian, grew up in a little bitty town in Central Florida. God bless them and protect them with this hurricane coming in. And lived
Yeah,
in Boca
sure.
Raton for several years, and then we moved to North Florida and Madison. So I've had a lot of
Yeah.
small towns in my life. Greenville has just exploded, so I'm ready to find a small town again. But
I'm
it's
I'm a
beautiful here.
I'm a small town girl myself. I actually live in the woods, but I grew up in a small town in Kansas. And I would say the majority of the Pulpwood Queens don't live in the big cities. They live in Eureka, Kansas, or Eustis, Florida, or Decatur, Oklahoma. They'll live somewhere really small, and it's a big deal to have somebody like you come into their homes and talk. And I mean, I remember when Jeanette Walls went New York Times bestseller, and I had her come in, and then she said, I'll be glad to talk to any of the book clubs. And my book clubs came back and they said, you know that she talked to us for an hour and a half. And she goes, I felt like I was the most important person in the world. And now look at Jeanette Walls. She is like gone, like with Lisa Wingate and Jamie Ford to superstardom. She's really doing great with her new book. But, you know, Florida is been a very welcoming place for me. In fact, my host is going to be from Florida this year, Jeffrey Lawrence Matthews, who lives in Naples.
Okay.
And he's coming. He's from New Hampshire, but they retired in Naples. And Casey Cowers, who was my host last year, will be coming. And he lives in, oh gosh, Tampa. Tampa?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I lived in Tampa for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a lot of authors that live in Tampa. So we're all over the country and we're all over the world now too. So this Zoom, when we went, you know, there were some really bad things that happened during COVID, but one of the best things that happened was it forced me to learn how to do an online book club because I didn't know how to do Zoom. And it's had some glitches this past year because they've let over half their staff go. So it's been interesting this year, but so far it's gotten better. But the thing about it is it opened us up to the world, and authors who would never have been able to come before from Spain or Malta or Italy or Mexico, Canada, they can come in now. And I just booked this week. I just got a message from Jamie Ford right on my birthday that, okay, I'm going to come and keynote this year, but I can just keynote. I go, I don't care. Jamie, come, because he's one of the funniest guys in the world. He was my co-host for years, and he's, you know, he's selling millions of copies of his books now. And to have him come is just, it made me cry. I was so happy. And I just love him and his wife, Leisha, and all their kids. So he will be coming. And then RJ Lee, who I don't know, his first book was Waltzing the Piggly Wiggly. He's coming with a new novel, first time ever. So we've got a lot of people coming, and we have authors that come to these weekly meetings all the time. But Jayne, let's talk a little bit about you as a writer. Always the biggest questions I get is, did you always want to be a writer? When did this writing start for you?
Well, I posted today and talked about that. I actually wanted to be Dale Evans to start with.
Oh my gosh, I love Dale Evans. Roy Rogers, oh my gosh.
I was a huge fan. And then I wanted to be a department store gift wrapper. I thought that sounded like a terribly glamorous job.
I've done that.
Wanted to be an airline stewardess briefly.
Me too.
But I again, growing up in a small town, I had a lot of encouragement. I learned to read really early and fell in love. There was a librarian at our church that just kept me supplied. She introduced me to Robert Louis Stevenson. I don't know if any of you know the Flicka Ricka Dicka series.
No.
Snap and Snurr. They're all Swedish folk stories. They're contemporary, but Trixie Bells and Nancy Drew, Cherry Ames, the whole thing. So I fell in love with words really, really early on. And then in school, I just had so much encouragement. My sixth grade teacher had us write a story every week and then share it with the class. And again, small town, one of my teachers sent a story to the local newspaper and he published it when I was in the fourth grade. So I kind of always knew I would end up being a writer. And I love to sing. That we have a very musical family. That's part of the history behind Haley and the Hot Flashes. So briefly, I considered being a studio singer in Nashville. I don't have what it takes to be a star, but I thought it would be really fun to be a studio singer. Until I met my husband, he said, "I don't think so." So
you didn't want to move to Nashville?
At that point, I kept working on my English degree in creative writing. So
that worked for Garth Brooks' wife, because she started out working on Music Row as a secretary and went on to become a session singer, and then now look at her. I mean, she's she's as popular as Garth Brooks. So anyway, well, what a great background, because your book is so interesting, because give everybody, don't give anything away, but give everybody the premise of the story, because it's really clever, I think, about your, yeah.
It's a story of a 53-year-old woman who at one point was a hugely successful diva in the country music industry. But over the last 10 years or so, her popularity has waned, and she won't do anybody's music but her own. So she hasn't had a hit song, so she's just kind of languishing. And her agent books her on a low-budget tour of the South. And when she goes back, it kicks off with her 35th high school reunion.
Yep.
And her backup singers are in a wreck on the way to the gig. And so just by pure coincidence, the girls that she sang with in high school, called the Girls Next Door, are all in the bathroom when Haley is in there on the phone. And so long story short, they end up backing her that night. And the story kind of goes, they end up going on the road with her. So this, you know, it's a story of middle-aged angst and dreams that went unfulfilled and maybe are still lurking in the background, and the power of friendship, and most importantly, the fact that attitude matters a whole lot more than what your age is.
It's so true. There's a new comedian she just raised all her kids, and she's been hitting the road. She's the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life. Her name is Lori. She's blonde, and she talks about, you know, when she was in college, she wore little breeches. She is just the funniest thing. I just heard her talk a minute ago, and she was thanking everybody for bringing her, you know, from a farming family, all these farm goods. And she's, I mean, going all across the country, and she's in her, you know, 50s. And I'm thinking, I thought when, you know, you turned 50, you did like my grandparents did, they retired. You know, they had a Western store. And I have an aunt that looked just like Dale Evans, you know, and I thought my grandpa looked just like Roy Rogers. You said you were a fan. But they retired in their 50s, and, you know, they farmed, you know, they just did big gardens and stuff until they died in their 80s. And I'm thinking to myself, 30 years, you know, they just did that farmy, you know, garden and eating what you make. And I thought, I can't even imagine retiring, and I'm 67. And so I just don't think people can do it like they used to anymore, because if anybody can live on Social Security, please tell me about it, because I can't. It's my expenses for my home are more than what it gives me, so it makes it really challenging. But you just have such a great story, and it's you know, we need a little levity in when times are tough. And I was just telling her before we started that this would be such a great movie. If there's any Hollywood, Netflix, streaming services that need a great story, you need to go to Jaudon Ferrer and see Haley in the Hot Flashes, because this story would be, you know, they've got these book club movies out, which are not anywhere near as good as the storyline as yours. And Melissa Carnegie of Brother Mockingbird is her publisher, and she's fantastic. So how long did it take you to write this book?
Probably 10 years coming and going. I started out working on it with a friend of mine, a fellow writer, and then somewhere along the line she lost interest, and she had all kinds of things happen that kind of changed her focus in life. And I said, you know, I love these characters. I love this story. I'd like to keep working with this if you don't mind. And she gave me her blessing on that and said, you know, I got other things I want to do. So I kept working on it, and you know, again, it was probably from the time that, you know, the first few chapters came across, it was probably a good 10 years. But you know, and again, I've got some background in music and in Nashville, but I try to find books that have older protagonists, and there just aren't a lot. You know, you either they're 25 or they're 80. It's one, you know.
It's true. It's
like,
so
there's not a whole lot in there for 50 and 60-year-old women who are, as you said, not retired, but still active and still doing things. And so that was one of the motivations for, making these middle-aged women the protagonists.
Well, I was just telling Jayne that this year's theme is going to have a Barbie influence, and I'll explain that later. But the reason why the Barbie movies have done so well is because Barbie was, I think she was invented when I was 3, and that was a big gift for Christmas, was a Barbie fashion show or dream house or Barbie or case or whatever. And we grew up with that. So boomer women are flocking to this movie because there's nothing for boomer women to go to the movies and see. We're not into Marvel or, all those comic book stories or superheroes or race car or Mission Impossibles. We want a story that we can relate to. And no matter what you remember about Barbie, I really wasn't a doll person. I was more of an outdoor girl, but I did like clothes. So the fashions were something I really liked. But we all had Barbie stories, and all of us in the neighborhood, would get together, and we were kind of competitive about our Barbies. And sometimes some of the girls would switch the bodies, pull the heads off and put them on another body because you'd mark them up and stuff. It's funny, all the things that we remember. But your book is perfect for boomer women. It's actually 50, maybe the low end of boomer women, but I don't know what the cutoff is. I do know that not a whole lot of stories that go to film that are directed to things that we can relate to. I mean, we've got our Steel Magnolias, we've got our, our wonderful movies with Diane Keaton and, the different people are women of age, Helen Mirren,
There's
but
so
we
many
don't.
actors in that age group that
Meryl
are so talented, and they don't have a lot of material to work with.
No, and Meryl Streep was actually in a great movie where she played an aging rock star. Did you see it? It was wonderful. And I was really excited about it because Rick Springfield was in it too. And I had a big crush on him when I was a kid. But anyway, I think we all still listen to that music. It's not big band sounds and swing that we listen to. I still listen to heavy metal and Deep Purple and Alice Cooper and Pink Floyd, and I like all kinds of music. So you said you sang, did you play a guitar?
I don't. I play piano, but I never learned to play the guitar. My mother tried valiantly to teach me how to play the violin. It didn't take.
Well, I think that's amazing. Do you still sing now?
I do. Because of the labyrinthitis, I can't hear a lot of pitches anymore. So I don't do, I'll be singing along in the car at the top of my lungs and realize I'm in a completely different key. So I used to do a lot of solo work in church and weddings and things like that. But now I mostly sing in the car.
Did you grow up in the church choir?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Oh, me too. I mean, from 14 years old and up, we sang in the choir. And nowadays, you don't see young people in a choir, in a church choir.
Well, you don't see many church choirs anymore. It's all done in praise bands.
Yeah, but we all sang and I loved it. I love choir, and I love choir in school too. So, well, I was going to ask you to sing maybe something for it. Well, I actually have had a lot of people. We had a Pulpwood Queen talent show one year, and we had people play the piano and sing and do. Fanny Flagg did bird calls, which was fantastic. She was really good at it. But we'll have to do that again sometime. But so you wrote this book and you got it. How did you meet Melissa, your publisher? Because she's such a sweetheart.
I sent her the manuscript and she wrote me back the same day, and I sent her a few chapters. And she wrote me back the same day and said, I want to see the whole manuscript. It's like, yes, ma'am.
I think you hit a chord with her. Sorry for the pun. You hit a chord with her. She's always looking for that kind of a thing. And I just love her. So it came out. It's we've got it on our list, and you're the bonus book of the month to read this month. And can you show everybody the cover, because it's really got a beautiful,
Yeah.
bright, fun cover. Hey, hold it up a little higher. Higher. Yeah, there you go. There you go. They're on the bus. They're headed across the country. And it's just got some hilarious conversation. Where did you learn all this dialogue? Is it from actual events?
I'm sorry.
Dialogue. The dialogue from
what about it?
in the book. Where did you were these things you actually heard?
Well, I'll tell you, when Melissa first got the manuscript, she called me and she said, "Do you think this is a little too Southern?" And I said, of course, she's from Mississippi. I said, "No, we really talk like that down there." You know, it's the girls are from the town in the book is Scary, South Carolina. It's Skerry, which is fictional, but there's a lot of accurate descriptions of towns and things in there. But it's a small town, and I drew on that background of living in a small town and the relationships there, and the everyday life. Everybody knows what everybody else is doing, and the one hand comments, and so that was all factored into it. This is all pretty much based on real life stuff.
Now, when you drove down the street in your hometown, did you wave? What was your sign of greeting in the car when you were driving? Do you remember?
Oh yeah, wave it. Oh yeah. And it's interesting now, because now I don't know what anybody drives. And so, in Wauchula, the little town where I grew up, you knew everybody everywhere, in the grocery store, driving down the street, whatever. And so you just, roll down the window and say, "Hey, how y'all doing?"
Exactly. But back home where I'm from in Kansas, the farmers just pick up a finger, go like that. And I can honestly tell people where they're from by how they greet each other in a vehicle, And what we did in our hometown, if we saw somebody we knew, we'd honk. And, and honking is really telling people, look out, don't hit me. But every Friday and Saturday night, we just drove up and down the strip.
Did you do that too? Yeah. And and my mother said, "I better not ever see you parked in a parking lot, watching the cars," because you would drag Maine back and forth.
Yes.
I was 17, back and forth and back and forth. And some of you would pull over into the parking lot and then wave at all the cars, when somebody went by that you knew, but I was not allowed to do that. So there's no sitting in parking lots and alien hot flashes.
The local hangout was my house. My parents' home was just off the highway, so you could see the local hangout was in the next block, and that's where all the kids. It was kind of like Mel's Diner from American Graffiti. It was called Lomar, after Lawrence and Mary Lomar, which were funny, my parents' names. But we all pull around it, and you had to go in to get. They didn't have a Sonic where you have the people. You had to go in, and so when it was really cold, everybody would just huddle in this little bitty thing with the space heaters, But I can remember one time we were talking loud outside and everything, and my mom came out the door. Now, this is how small town I lived in. She goes, "Kathy Murphy, you get on home right now." And everybody goes, "You better get on home." And I just walked across the field and went in the house. She goes, "I can hear you from me." I was in trouble. But
the hangout in the book is the Dairy Dip, which is very much modeled on Knight's Drive-In that I grew up circling.
What was the favorite thing to get there? Did you have a local treat? That we had thing called, they were chocolate nut cups. And they were soft serve chocolate ice cream with hot marshmallow cream and sprinkled with nuts. And you could get nickel, dime, and quarter.
I remember.
And when I took my girls the first time there, we went there. And they said, "This is the best thing I've ever had in my life." They still make them. But every hometown has a Dairy Delight or whatever,
Yeah, we had BC's drugstore had nickel vanilla Cokes.
Yeah.
Large was 15 cents. And my sister always liked Lime Rickies. I don't know what that was, but that was what she always.
Probably like a limeade, wouldn't you think?
I would
lime.
guess, yeah. But I don't know if there was ice cream in it, but
Was it at the drugstore? Did they make it with a syrup?
I don't
You
know.
know those syrup machines?
I do,
Because
and Miss oh gosh, now I can't think of her name. Was her Miss Virgie? Her pies were famous all over town, so everybody would come into Beeston's. They had a whole, a drug counter, food counter.
were they cream pies or fruit pies?
Cream pies mostly, coconut and
Chocolate.
yeah, chocolate cream and things that I don't eat anymore.
I don't either. Oh, it's fascinating. But these are things that people of our age um, long for. And so when they read about kids growing up together and going to the reunion and everything, it just brings back all those memories. And so I really do think this book is going to be great for the end of the summer read. Did you go to the drive-in? Did you have a drive-in nearby where you
Oh
lived?
yeah. Oh
Yep.
yeah. At which now, sadly, there's a hotel that sits on top of what used to be the drive-in.
Oh, mine's a pasture. It got hit by a tornado, but my aunt was the ticket taker for both the Princess Theater downtown, and then when she'd get done with it, then she'd drive out to the drive-in and do the tickets. My Aunt Mabel, and she did that her entire life. She died at almost 100. But it's now the Princess Theater is the grocery store parking lot. Yeah, it's sad. So I'm going to open this up for everybody that's here today because I know you've all got comments and questions. So who wants to begin to ask Jayne a comment or a question? Just go ahead.
I don't think this is a question. I just want to say how cool it is that Kathy Murphy brings together 3 people, one in Washington, D.C., one in Greenville, South Carolina, one in Japan. Are you in Kyoto? You're out in the country, aren't you? And we're all going to be near Greenville next week.
Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me?
My cousin's getting married and I'm going, her wedding is in Abbeville.
Oh my goodness.
My nephew's in Greenville. My son's his second best friend, he's got a best friend here, is in Greenville. He moved from he went to college at Charleston and moved to Greenville recently. He's going down to Greenville to see him. And I'm leaving on Tuesday and Suzanne's flying in on Tuesday. And if it were any time but launch for me, I'd stay, but I can't. And I'm so bummed. I'm going to try, but you
can work it out and let me know, and I'll take you to the best hush puppies you'll ever eat.
Oh, you gotta stay. You gotta stay.
I know. I love those hush puppies.
Don't miss those opportunities. And another thing, authors, when you have that, have your books with you. Because I got to tell you this quick little thing. If you all get together, we went to the local, it's like an IHOP in Jefferson for some reason after some girlfriend weekend there or something. And all the authors went. It was kind of after thing. We ordered breakfast and we had all our books on the table. And before we left that place, every waiter in the room had gathered around us and they go, "You're authors." And it's like we were the Rolling Stones. I mean, can I get a book? And, they were kids working there. We all gave them books. And it was like, they said, "This is the biggest day of her life." One girl said, "I want to be an author." You just never know. Carry your books with you wherever you go, because you might change the whole trajectory of some young person's life, or you might have, like I had happen in Florida when I was in Panama City at the library. I stopped to get gas and this woman ran over and she said, what are you? I'm looking at this panel on the side of your car. I go, "I'm an author." She goes, "What'd you write?" I go, "The Pulpwood Queen's Tiara wearing." She goes, "Well, I'm an attorney here and I want your book." And so she gave me a 20 and I went in the trunk and got her book. And it was just because I had that side panel on my car. So, serendipitous things happen when you become a pulpwood queen. Okay. You've got to take lots of pictures if you all get together, do a video, send it to me. We'll blast it out there. So
I've just got to find a way home. How
far is it?
Oh, from where I live, it's a 9-hour drive.
Oh, well, you're not flying?
Trains, planes, and automobiles. The whole family's going because it's my cousin's wedding. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Different people are driving different cars, and then different people are flying back. But I'm gonna try, okay?
Well,
really,
you can get in touch with me through my website.
okay, I will. And I've got Suzanne's email address.
And then she's blogging too. So she's up on the Pulpwood Queen Presents. So I want to know too, Jayne, what's the next project you've got going? Are you writing another book?
I have one that's already finished called Olay in a Manger that if I could just find a publisher for it.
What's it called?
Olay, as in the Spanish word, Olay in a Manger. And it's a little Christmas novella, which publishers keep telling me is too short. And I'm like, it's December. Nobody wants to read a 600-page tome. But it's about 41,000 words, which I think is just about right for a little Christmas book. So if you know anybody who's interested, it's ready to go.
Let me think about it. Let me think about it, because there's a lot of people reading novellas these days. Suzanne Kamada, who does all of your little books?
Well, I actually published like a Christmas themed romance novel with it's like it's a publisher in India. It's like these young women in India, and they started this app. It's like an app, but they also have like print books, and it's called Saga Fiction. So they have books by authors like all over the world.
You two get together, and what have you got on? I'm loving this.
This is like a leopard print dress, so it's my tiara is too heavy, but
I love the colors. I love
it's a leopard.
So, but Suzanne Kamada has probably written more books than most people have written in a lifetime. How many books do you have now?
Some of them I edited, so I think I'm up to about 16, but some are like for people who are developing literacy skills, so they're very short, like 10,000 words. And I edited 3 anthologies, so I count those. And I published maybe 3 novels for adults, I guess. And
I'm telling you, Jayne, Suzanne's in Japan, but you guys, you're both on Facebook Exchange. I tell you, it's all about networking these days. And there's lots of small independent publishers, but check them out with people. But you might think about doesn't your state, there's South Carolina Press, don't they do some things like that? Or who was Jonathan Hote used to work for? Was it?
That was University of South Carolina Press.
Yeah. So,
but they don't do fiction anymore. But there is like Hub City, which is near Greenville.
Hub City would be a good one. Now, when you say Ole in the Manger, is it like, what is it about? I imagine it's the Christmas story, but I mean,
it's about a woman who owns a bookstore who decides to launch a live nativity to breathe spirit into her dying church. They want to give something back to the community, and everything kind of falls apart around her. They can't find the baby Jesus. The llamas who are masquerading as camels go completely berserk in the middle of town, and
it almost sounds like a Christmas story, but with a Christian bent. Remember?
One of my friends described it as the best Christmas pageant ever meets Mitford.
Yes. You know what? I'm going to reach out to my Judy Christie and Missy Buchanan, because they both write for United Methodist Communications, and they're and then I have another good Christian. Oh, let me check around for you, because it sounds like I want to read it. So
it's a lot of fun.
I think it sounds great. So,
but Haley is funny, but there's a lot of serious stuff in there too. And
Yes, there
Elena
is.
Manger is the same thing. It touches on racism and bullying and some serious matters too.
Oh, I know somebody else you might check with is William and Laura Bernhardt have a small publishing company out of Oklahoma, and they're doing Writers Con this weekend. I'm going to be talking to her. Let me talk to her because she published. Who who was our author that we just had, Kathy? Who did we have last week? Gosh, I can't even remember. Do you
The
remember?
woman who wrote the fifth daughter of the Thorn
Yeah,
Ring.
she published Julia Brewer
Daly.
Daly's
Julia.
book.
Yeah.
So, and she's a real small publisher, but I bet she would love this story. Let me get you hooked up with Laura. I think that would be a good match. And then, I want to read it because it sounds like it'd be a great. That's the kind of books I like to pick in December, because most people don't have much time to read. So, thank you.
Right.
Yeah, Mike, do you have any comments? Mike is a brand newbie to the Timber Guys of our book club, and he is an author too. So, any questions or comments?
Well, just a couple thoughts. One of them, I'm interested, Jayne, in seeing how you handled the dialogue. The book that I wrote is set in the South, and I had the challenge of trying to figure out just how much of that creeps in without becoming overbearing and start to drive people crazy. So what was your method for keeping some kind of a balance there?
It's like hearing somebody who's not Southern affecting a Southern accent. you can tell when it's fake. And so I just kind of, if it felt natural, and I read everything aloud so that you can hear how it sounds and how the pacing is. And, you just put yourself in that situation. It's like, would somebody make that little flippant remark, but not go on and on and on and on? You have to cut it off. So you just, again, mostly reading it out loud so you hear how it sounds and make sure it doesn't just sound over the top or doesn't sound disingenuous.
Right. Yeah. And,
I found it was.
Go ahead.
So I found it was challenging. I grew up in the South, but then I moved to the North to go to college. So I lost a lot of what I used to hear on a regular basis, and it was hard getting back and forth. By the way, I just did have one other comment. Kathy, you were talking about carrying your books everywhere, which I'm not that strong actually, so I don't do that. But I have found out one of my most enjoyable techniques for promoting my story are these little business cards that have the cover of the book on the business card. Can everyone see that okay?
Yeah, I can see it great.
And I have now become infamous in the grocery store because if you are checking out my groceries, somewhere between the first item and the last item, I managed to ask, by the way, do you read often? And all they have to do is give me a glimmer of hope, and I whip one of those cards in there.
It's the least expensive form of advertising is a business card or a bookmark. But business cards are great because you can slip them in, your billfold. But that's a great idea.
Well, I enjoy the conversations that ensue, and I'm sure all of you have found the same thing, that it's interesting when someone says, what's your book about? And all of a sudden, 5 minutes later, you're engaged in a conversation. Even if they don't read the book, it's enjoyable to have that kind of exchange.
Yep. Maybe you need to do a book signing at that grocery store. People do it all the time.
Around town.
Actually, Kroger's here in Texas has a program for authors in their stores. So, it's amazing where you see people signing books these days. But I'm just like Loretta Lynn. I'll hop in the car and I'll drive from bookstore to bookstore and make your car your moving advertisement. Get those Vista print side panels of your book on it. And people ask you, and you just, if you let them hold it, they say 80% of the time they'll buy it. And if you let them read it, say, read that first chapter, read it out loud. And they'll go, you know what? How much is this? You know, and you just make it rounded up or whatever, and they'll slip you the money. I do it all the time. I've become
I'd
quite
love
the
to ask a question of the other authors.
Yeah.
Who I'm assuming everyone has their books on Amazon. Yes, no. And so they have that program where people can read pages of your book, and you get, I forget what they call it, KNEP or something like
Yep.
that. And then you
AD.
get paid by the number of pages that are read, and it's a pittance. But
Well,
every
yeah.
once in a while, I see this back and forth where over a 10-day period, a lot of pages are being read. Have you had experience with that in your books? Have you seen activity that way?
So I love Amazon. It was good to me with my first book. My book has never been in KDP because the publisher didn't put it there. And I believe she knows what she's doing as far as sales. It goes into Ingram. My understanding, although I'm not a publisher, is that it can't go into KDP if it's in Ingram. And I was pushing for it to go into Ingram, so it would be in bookstore catalogs and bookstores would order it, because I believe in indie bookstores a little bit more than KDP, for many reasons, partially because I grew up sitting on the floor of one, but it's really a choice, and it depends on what kind of book you have. And if you want to contact me, I'm happy to, maybe after Labor Day, because I'm all over the place, don't know where, planes, trains, and automobiles. But after Labor Day, I'd be happy to talk you through it.
That would be
I've
interesting.
had both experiences, not KDP, but an almost totally Amazon-driven sales book. And then this one has been almost all indie bookstores.
Well, I have,
and book clubs.
Yeah, I have the book on Amazon, and also it's available through Ingram. But I learn from every author I speak to.
I don't think
you'll learn a lot.
I don't think you can put it into KDP if it's in Ingram.
I only have the hard copy in Ingram. I don't have the electronic version. That's only available.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that'll get past it.
Yeah.
I don't have any clue as to how that's going to affect your sales one way or the other.
But the other thing I enjoy is just getting, I was at my first meeting last week. I'm halfway through the book that I learned about last week. So Jayne, you'll be popping up next week or the week after. Although I have a feeling my wife may be even a better audience than I am for the Hot Flashes girls. So
I don't know. There's some pretty good guy scenes in there too.
Yeah, the guys that read it seem to have enjoyed it. So
I really I think the guys, my book was pink, and I had people go, Stephen Colbert, when I met him at my publisher launch party, because we were published by Grand Central. He said, "Oh, Kathy, thank you for the book. I think my mom would really like it." And I said, "Stephen Colbert, don't judge a book by its cover." I said, I got more blurbs from men for my book than I did women, and there were some pretty good blurbs. Pat Conroy, John Barrett. I mean, I got really great blurbs, and but you really need to. We don't have any choice when we go with major publishers on the cover, but if you do it yourself, be sure you make sure that it's friendly to everybody. You
Yeah,
know,
because there's not a whole lot here that's gonna appeal to the masculine mind, unfortunately.
well, I know, but if you read the book, there will be.
Well,
I think.
exactly, but to get them to pick it up in the first place, you know, I needed a Jeep on that cover somewhere or something.
Well, you
But the
know,
wives are going to read it, and then they're going to say, "Honey, you got to read this. It's your."
There you go.
I really think that everybody needs to read a book, and you know, I just hate it when people make comments about something. Well, I'm not going to go to that Barbie movie because I don't like Barbie, and I go, well, then you're making a big mistake because it's not what you think it is. And I went with my daughter, and then I took my best friend from childhood and who I played Barbie with, and we had a ball. But you know, guys liked it too. I have a lot of my guy friends that said, "Wow, that was quite a movie." So Jayne, you're going to do this Christmas book. We'll work on that, and then have you got something besides that you're going to do?
I have another manuscript, another novel that's about half done about two sisters in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And so working on that. That one's still in progress, and I've got probably half a dozen children's books that I pull out and work on from time to time. So
I understand. Well, I like to share great children's books too. So I used to pick one a month, but my book club audience or membership got older and they stopped reading the children's books. And I started out in children's book selling. And I'm going to tell you that if you don't read the books that are out today from anywhere from little kids to tweens, you're missing out. There's some great books. David Valdez is writing good books. Suzanne Kamada is writing good books. There's a lot of people. My very first author that ever graced my doors was Kimberly Willis Holt, who went on to win the National Book Award. There's a lot of great children's books out there. And so everybody needs to read everything, you know, really. I read, in fact, my daughter just suggested I read this book called The Idiot. I don't know if she was trying to tell me something. It is the most brilliant book I have ever read, and it was a runner-up for the Pulitzer. So I just thought, man, I never would have ever found this book if it hadn't been for Madeline. So you have to, and that's what my job is. My job is to get your books seen by as many people as possible. That's why when you come to our girlfriend weekend, we tape those things. They go up on YouTube and they're going around the world, people. Everybody's watching what I'm doing. And the viewership of my Pulpwood Queen channel is picking up internationally, but not so much within my book club. And I'm thinking, our book clubs are having their meeting. Why aren't they here? Because they could talk to you personally. I mean, to me, you never know the real story until we hear Jayne's edge of it. Now, your family, are you and your husband, kids gone?
I have three wonderful sons. Two of them live right here in Greenville. One's in Charlotte, an hour and a half away. And I have a 2-year-old granddaughter, a 4-year-old grandson, a 7-year-old granddaughter, and another boy coming in Thanksgiving.
Yay!
And we do our primary activity is going to the library. Greenville has a wonderful library system, all kinds of activities and programs. So that's what we do when we have play dates together. We usually go do a craft or an art show or something at the library.
Well, I have a really great idea. I've been thinking about that. For every time one of my authors goes to a library, especially with children, I would love to do live Zooms. Think about that. If we did a live Zoom where you could just set up a camera facing the children and, you know, and I've got it on, I'm recording it, and we could see you interacting with the kids and then post them. And we could go around the world for libraries. Suzanne Kamada, do you ever do anything like that in Japan?
Well, in Japan, it would be hard because people are really sensitive about privacy. So they wouldn't allow probably their children to be shown on a video that would be publicly
Well, maybe
posted.
it could just be showing you reading to them and not show them at all.
You could probably do that. Yeah. I do
Because
read when I'm teaching English.
well, the
books.
reason why is I'm finding out that most schools now do not read aloud to children. And I thought, how can we turn that around?
Really?
That was what got me excited about reading was my teachers after recess, lunch, they would sit us down to get us calm and they'd pick up a book and it was Old Yeller, Rascal, Little House on the Prairie books, Mr. Popper's Penguins, Island of the Blue Dolphins. And for 30 minutes, we would be transfixed and transported to other worlds. So if all of our authors did this and we picked a different state or country, how cool would that be? I get goosebumps thinking about it because I think reading aloud to children is the best thing you can. In fact, Jim Trelease wrote 2 books, Read All About It and the Read Aloud Handbook. If you've never read those, you should, because it's the story behind the story of authors and how their books, from Beatrix Potter to the man who wrote Where the Red Fern Grows. So I'm a big proponent for reading aloud to children. So think about it. And if we can get a couple people to start with, we'll just schedule them on the weekends, when you go with the kids. And you don't even have to show the kids if there's some kind of, you could just show you reading. And then, we say, and this is Jaudon Ferrer reading from the Greenville Public Library. Of course, you got to get the library's permission, but who wouldn't want to promote reading aloud to children? Yeah. So pass the word. I'll put a post out on it this weekend and say, this is a new initiative. We'll start, let's say we start in after Girlfriend Weekend next year for our 25th anniversary. That could be our literacy endeavor for 2025. What do you guys think? Wouldn't that be fun?
That's a great idea.
Okay. And it also tells people about you and your book, and then maybe after you're done reading, we could do a little, interview saying, well, tell us about, what do you write? Anyway, we'll do it. So Jayne, thank you so much for a wonderful time. We got it done. She's coming to Girlfriend Weekend, you all. And did you send me photo of you and your book? I just found out that you're paid to come to Girlfriend Weekend. So I'm featuring every author who's coming. I'm featuring them on my photo album page. So let me get you added tonight, okay? And then I'll put you up there. I just added Jamie Ford and RJ Lee. And I got a couple more coming on board, and we'll get you on there because you're on there. I think Kathy, you're on there. Suzanne, are you going to be able to come? Is she there?
Yeah, I think I'm paid up. I think I paid for.
Okay, though I need to get you.
But I'm having like a professional headshot made this weekend. So wait.
Well, I just started your new books, the 2 that you sent me. So please do, because I love them. And so anybody that you know that's coming that's not shown on that page, let's get them on there, because that's what's going to get more readers to come. So Jayne, thank you so much. I know we had some glitches today, but this is my 2nd week of graduate school, and it's been quite crazy. But I have to say, I am really loving it. I go, it's the best of the times, and I'm going to tell you it's the worst of times, because I found some unexpected charges for things that were not fees. I didn't know, even though my tuition is free, I didn't know there would be such expensive fees to be a student. So that kind of hit me by surprise today, the day after my birthday. But I've got it all worked out. So everybody, have a reading life. Keep reading, keep writing, keep bringing people in. Have fun in Greenville, everybody. That is too cool that you're all going to be there at the same time. Mike, you're not anywhere close, are you? Not to Greenville, South
No, I'm going to Birmingham, Alabama, though.
Yep. You going to see Monica?
She's further down. She's all the way South Alabama.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I'm just going to Birmingham for some stuff.
Well, I have a really good friend in Birmingham, Michael. why am I going blank? Michael Morris. Michael Morris and his wife Melanie are two of my dearest friends that live in Birmingham, and he's been an author of mine for years. And there's a lot of great authors in Birmingham. T.J. Thorne, Patty Callahan Henry, gosh, a lot. Carrie Madden Ludden. There's just so many. So I've been there lots of times. And hey, have you had your film festival there this month? The Sidewalk Film Festival is in Birmingham. It's usually around my birthday, and my birthday was yesterday.
I don't know. I mean, I live up near Philadelphia, so I don't know what goes on week to week, but they are having a lot of events surrounding the 60th anniversary of the anniversary is a bad word of the bombing at the 16th Baptist Church. So
yeah.
That's what I'm going down
about that. She lives there. But if you are there when the Sidewalk Film Festival is on, go to the Alabamian, the big theater, and go to one of those shows. They do fabulous films. So everybody, thank Jayne for being here tonight.
Thank you, Jayne.
We'll see you next week, Tuesday Night Book Club. Thanks for coming back, Mike. And have you sent me a book yet so I can read it?
No, I've got a book signing coming up, and I have to hold on to all the copies I have at the moment. As soon as it's over, I will send you one.
Okay, because I want to read your book. Mike is the brother, I'm going to say the brother, of one of my best friends from college back in Emporia, when we both went to Emporia State University, and now she's back in Alabama. She's in Alabama, right?
Yes, South Alabama somewhere.
But we just reconnected, and how she found me is the weirdest thing. But I haven't seen her in 30 years, but we just picked up where we left off. So you guys have a wonderful night. Thank you for joining me, and follow my travels as I go back to school. It's been quite a hoot. The kids.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Jayne.
Thank you.
Bye, Suzanne. Bye, Kathy.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Jayne.
Overdo it, Kathy.
It's all about the story, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.